Good afternoon to all. Welcome everyone, wherever you are. Uh, Very good afternoon to all. And I welcome everyone, wherever you are. I hope you are in sound health, you are safe, you are healthy, your family is safe. And I welcome all of you tuning into my uh, YouTube channel for my second live uh, on the trot. I had a live session yesterday, YouTube live session yesterday, and now I'm starting out with my second live session, and I was absolutely overwhelmed by the response that I received in my first live. There were requests, so what I have done, I have decided to organize today, right now, right here. So, and I will be reading from page 10. Why can't someone else have a chance to? Because Shonali said, joining in, because Arji is the bestest bride of all. But he is not even a girl. Her fatness closing in on the lameness of Shonali's argument. The bride is a girl, not a boy. So this is an extraordinary line from Salvador Rai. A bride is not a girl. Bride is a boy. No, it's not possible. The bride has to be a girl, not a boy. Now, let's ask ourselves a very simple question. Who is a boy? On what basis do we decide that you are a boy? How do we decide that someone is a boy, someone is a girl? Why is it decided? How is it decided? It is decided on the basis of body. It is decided usually on the basis of body. Now, if somebody has something between the legs, that body is decided or gender assigned male at birth. Now, this assignment of gender when someone is born is important, because if you cannot decide the sex of the body, you cannot decide the gender. And if you cannot decide the gender, you cannot decide the sexuality. So, in order for sexuality to be stabilized, we have to stabilize the gender. And in order for gender to be stabilized, in order for gender to be uh, to be to be to be fixed by way of assignment of gender on the body. So if your body is a, so suppose your body is a trans body, that means if you have a body that has both male genital and the breasts, how would you gender assign? Or do we have to gender assign? Now this whole game of assignment of gender is incredibly patriarchal, because if we cannot decide the body, or if we cannot stabilize the body, we would not be able to stabilize the gender. Suppose if we cannot decide whether it's a male body or is it a female body, then what would be the difficulty? Then you would not be able to understand which performance is this body or is that body supposed to perform. Now, if we cannot decide which body is supposed to perform which kind of gender performance, you cannot decide what would be the sexuality of that gender performance. That is, if I cannot allow my body to be stabilized, then sex or gender cannot be divided into two boxes. If they cannot be divided into two boxes, then what would happen? Society would not be able to fix my masculinity or my femininity. So if whether I'm male or female, that cannot be decided, then also I would be masculine or feminine, that would not be decided. Now then, if that does not get decided, then obviously whether I would desire male or female, that won't be decided. So it simply troubles heterosexuality. And the moment heterosexuality is troubled like this, that I have explained right now, the patriarchal system would become upset. Because the whole game of patriarchy is based on stable body. And that's why stable body is almost like the base in Marxist theories. Stable body is almost like the base, and gender and sexuality is the superstructure, again if we borrow Marxist theory. So unless you have a stable labor class, you cannot develop the city. Similarly, if you do not have a stable body, you cannot have a stable gender and thereby stable sexuality. And commercialization would be upset. So what is interesting is that in order for patriarchy to be made permanent, to be hegemonized, the most important thing is to be able to fix the lingo of the baby when it is born. ছেলে হয়েছে না মেয়ে হয়েছে, this should be the question. This should be the question that I think everybody asks. Now, why does everybody ask this question as soon as someone is born? Because this separation between boy and girl, that is, gender assignment at birth, is probably the most important job that patriarchy can think of. If we do not separate male or female, the moment someone is born, patriarchy becomes absolutely troubled. So this ছেলে হয়েছে না মেয়ে হয়েছে, this in itself extraordinarily patriarchal. Therefore, so a bride is a girl, not a boy. She looked around at the other cousins and then at me. A boy cannot be the bride, she said with deep conviction. A girl must be the bride. So if you have to play the role of a bride, you have to be a girl. Now it takes me back to 1949 book of Simone de Beauvoir. Because in Simone de Beauvoir, in that 1949 book, Simone de Beauvoir wrote that one is not born a woman, one becomes a woman. So, is the one male or female? If the one is male, then how does that line become? A male is not born a woman but becomes a woman. So if gender is a becoming, not a being, if gender is a becoming, not a being, then you must understand that any sexed body can perform that becoming. Any sexed body can perform that becoming. So if I stared at her, defenseless, her voice brimming over with laughter. See what I found. The Kanti auntie is referring to RG and in an incredibly homophobic circumstances. See what I found. The other aunts and uncles looked up from their papers or bestirred themselves from their sleep. They gazed at me in amazement, as if I had suddenly made myself visible. It's extraordinary, this. So, nobody watches a man when a man wears shirts and trousers. Listen to me very carefully. Nobody watches a man when a man wears shirts and trousers. But everybody watches a man when he wears shari and palazzo and all those things. So as if wearing feminine dresses makes a male body visible. Makes a male body visible. So male body, as I was explaining in my previous lecture, is that male body does not exist. Male body has never ever existed. What exists is gas. What exists is deodorant. What exists is fog. Why? Because of the examples that we have around us. Bikers hate wearing helmet because that will take their masculinity away. Men play cricket and football in sunshine or in rainfall. Why? Because rain and sun do not bother male. No, rain and sun cannot upset men. Why? Why? Because men do not have body. So it cannot bother men. And that's why मर्द को कभी भी दर्द नहीं होता Patriarchy would not be happy with this, absolutely not be happy with this. So what would patriarchy do? Patriarchy would make those men who use umbrella in sun or in rain, who cannot ride bike, or even if they ride bike they use protective gears, they will, patriarchy cannot accept these men because these men are declaring that they have body, and patriarchy absolutely hates when men acknowledge that they have body. So what does patriarchy do? Hmm? What does patriarchy do then? Patriarchy then handles this challenge of men using umbrella or men using cream or men taking long time to bath or men being very careful with their body, with their good looks, with their physical appearances. What do they do? Then patriarchy makes those men with body funny. Whenever someone uses chata in rain, in sunshine, and he is man, patriarchy laughs at him. Patriarchy makes him funny. Patriarchy makes him ridiculous. Patriarchy makes him look ludicrous. Aparad? Aparad is that he is saying that he has a body. How? Otherwise, why would he protect with the umbrella? Why would he use the helmet or the protective gears? Why would he use the face mask? করোনা ছেলেদেরকে আর কিছু করতে পারবে না, ওরা চায়ের দোকানে আড্ডা মেরে যাবে. So this kind of men are proper men, like those men wearing no helmet and riding bike, like those men who do not care about the COVID-19 infection and they go out even without the mask and other protective gears of pandemic. So these men makes patriarchy proud. Patriarchy loves these men, these disembodied men, the men without bodies, men whose body is gas. Therefore, takes care of his skin, he is made funny. Whenever a man use cream and does pedicure and manicure, he is made funny. As you can see, I have titled this YouTube live stream because I do not find funny funny. I find funny violent. I find funny torture. I find this funniness in funny patriarchal torture. You always say that patriarchy tortures women. I agree with that. There is no doubt about that. Patriarchy oppresses, tortures, molests, harasses, embarrasses ladies. But that does not necessarily mean that patriarchy does not torture men. So when a man thinks that he has a body, patriarchy starts torturing that man. And how does that torture basically begin? Okay, that torture basically begins by way of making him funny, like this funny boy. Because when you make those visible, those bodied men funny, so if I take 1 hour to bath, if I use umbrella to protect my skin from sun rays or pelting rainfalls, or if I do not go out during COVID-19 pandemic unless I have to, then I am told কি মেয়েদের মতো ঘরের কোনায় বসে থাকিস। So ঘরের কোনো স্ল্যাশ অন্দরমহল স্ল্যাশ inner world is gendered feminine, and বহির্মহল or outer world or the public place or the public space are always already gendered masculine. So when someone says to me, আরে চল না একটু চায়ের দোকানে গিয়ে বসি, একটু গঙ্গার ধারে বসি, কিছু হবে না, অত করোনা ফরোনা ভয় করলে হয়? Now what he is basically saying is not that let's go out and have a cup of coffee or tea in an adjacent tea stall. No, he is not saying that. He is not asking me to take, he is asking me to go out. He doesn't want to take me out for an evening gossip or adda. What he is basically saying is that man is gendered public. So when you are staying inside continuously, day in and day out, month in and month out, what you are doing, you are performing gender that you should not have performed in the first place. Or in other words, as one of my students in my college in same 3 says that is it, sir, something that is called cisgender or cis man? Yes, I think anyone who matches up his gender with the sex and suppose you are born with a penis between your legs and you perform masculinity, then you are cis man. If you are born with vagina between your legs and you perform happily femininity, then you are cis woman. So who asks me, চল না একটু বাইরে আসি, ছেলে তো ঘরের মধ্যে বসে থাকি. So basically what they are saying is that men should go out in public. A number, since public is a gendered masculine space. Number two is that this male space has always already been public space, so we should reclaim that public space back, যেহেতু ওটা আমাদের পুরুষ মানুষের স্পেস. Third thing that he says is that I am a cis man because my sex body is male, so I am supposed to perform masculinity, and you are also supposed to be a cis man like me as well. If I do not want to be a cis man like you, then the other cis men or all the cis men of this heteropatriarchal society would make me funny, would laugh at me all day, all night. Wherever I go, I would be ridiculed, laughed at. Whatever I would not do or would do, I would invariably be made ridiculous. Now, why? Because I am not being a cis man. I am not being a cisgender at all. And whoever fails to perform cisgender, whoever does not end up becoming, what should I say, a cis man, is made funny. So in this particular segment of Selvedurai's Funny Boy, Kanti Aunty is discursively creating RG as a non-cis boy, or in other words, RG as a boy who is performing incorrect gender. And whenever you perform incorrect gender, whenever anyone performs wrong gender verb, he no longer becomes cis man or cis woman for that matter, because he fails to perform correct gender, and therefore you are not a cisgender. And the moment you are not a cisgender, the moment you are not a cis man or cis woman, you would be made funny everywhere by everyone, including your loving parents and relatives. Yes, yes, you will be. Everybody will be made fun of. Everybody will be made fun of because you are not a cisgender. You are not a cis man. And society excludes all cis men from its rubric. Society excludes all cis men from its rubric. দেখো এখানে আমি কি একটা নমুনা পেয়েছি. So it's not even a human being, RG. RG is almost a creature, almost a furniture, almost a asbab, saman, জিনিসপত্র, commodity, object, without identity, without agency, are themselves from their sleep. And all the relatives, near and dear ones, taking their afternoon nap or good coffee, they looked up and became absolutely horrified to see a non-cis man, to see a non-cis boy right in front of their eyes. And this horror in the eyes of RG's parents and relatives and dear and near ones is homophobic. Yes, it is absolutely homophobic indeed. Homophobia is a patriarchal reaction from a cisgender to a non-cisgender. homophobia is basically a patriarchal reaction from a cisgender to any non-cisgender, to any non-cis man or non-cis woman. And this homophobia, is it patriarchal? Yes, absolutely. There is no doubt about that. Homophobia is always absolutely comprehensively patriarchal indeed. So this homophobic and patriarchal shock, the look of horror in their eyes, in their faces, explain this homophobia, explain one more thing, that is how rooted patriarchy has gone deep. Patriarchy is way too powerful. Patriarchy is way too deep rooted. Patriarchy is way too stronger. Patriarchy is way too clever. Patriarchy is way too intelligent. So this is therefore, I feel, almost a patriarchal strategy, almost a patriarchal strategy to 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 negotiate the threat that comes from a non-cis man. Okay, I will explain this little bit for a minute, because this kind of non-cis man poses a potential threat to the patriarchal ideology. So patriarchy doesn't doesn't love these this non-cis man, because it is a challenge to its authority. So patriarchy has to do something about these non-cisgenders that is there. And the best way that patriarchy negotiates this threat or this challenge, the best way that patriarchy negotiates this threat and this challenge is by way of making that non-cis man funny. So now, why do I think this funniness is a, is basically an act of violence? We need to understand very clearly right now, immediately, before I can progress further with this YouTube live. One thing is that pet has to do something against this non-cis man. Otherwise, patriarchy would be disturbed. Otherwise, patriarchy would be subverted. Otherwise, patriarchy would be dismantled by this presence of non-cis men and women around. So patriarchy does one thing. Patriarchy laughs at them. You have to understand. I mean, those people who are listening to me right now, they need to think about this. They need to understand this. They need to be more critical of it. Because patriarchy makes fun of these non-cis men. Patriarchy ridicules them. And when you are making fun of non-cis gender performatives, like RG is a non-cis man. So therefore, patriarchy affects violence. Now, why is it violence? Why is this making funny is an act of violence? Because when patriarchy makes fun of non-cisgenders and always makes fun of, brutally makes fun of these all non-cisgenders, then patriarchy is basically saying that, okay, You may be there, but you are not acceptable. You are not correct. And when ridiculing or making funny becomes an act of violence, it is denying the person being made fun of his or her identity, isn't it? Suppose if I am a non cis man and you are a cis man or a cis woman and you are making fun of me, you are laughing at me all the time, and you are laughing at all the non cisgenders all the time. So, are you, as a cis man or as a cis woman, not denying me my identity, my right to choose and select and decide my gender performance? Think about this. Then, are you not denying me the minimum right to select my gender? What you are doing is that since you are born with a penis, so you have to perform masculinity because that is a cis performance, that is a cis man performance. So and whenever you don't do it, whenever you have a body, so whenever I would go out with a mask in my face, uh, because I am protecting my body and a man is not supposed to have a body, whenever I will ride a bike with, or I would be a man because I am not considering that I have a body. So whenever I talk about performance of masculinity, I definitely believing that I do not have a body. And the moment you think you have a body and thereby you need to protect your body, what you are doing is that you are thinking of your body and thereby the protection of it. And whenever you are thinking of your body is existing. The fact that you are protecting your body with face mask, with umbrella, with helmet, and with other protective cautionary gears, that means you are using different methods and formulas to protect your body. And whenever someone tries to protect someone's body, then someone says that I have a body. So the act of protection that makes the body present. It is the act of protection that brings the body into existence. And whenever you protect and thereby bring the body into existence, you are emasculating yourself by way of taking masculinity away. So if I am a man, I would continuously be careless of my body, reckless of my body, almost believe that I don't believe that I have a body, and thereby the requirement of protection